analytics.
So you know what they used to always say to me, why don't you smile more? Why don't you laugh more? And I said, you know when I laugh? When someone tells me a funny joke. I'm not just going to...
Do you get the sense that he cares about any of this?
No.
I don't think he cares about anything.
I don't think he cares about
He cares about horses.
What is patois?
Look it up.
How do you even spell patois?
Yes, I already knew you didn't know that one.
I thought it was patois, P-A-T-O-I-R. I Googled it, and it pulls up Urban Dictionary. A stupid Frenchman who was a Boy Scout and had sex with a moose.
What?
So how do you spell patois?
I know it's stupid. I don't care.
Like, come on.
And you know why there's pressure on you, pal? You know why there's pressure on you? Because you've never gotten out of the second round.
Welcome to the Daily Ding here on the Athletic NBA Show. I'm Jared Weiss. I am joined by Mo DeKeel. Dave Dufour is our producer. If you're joining us for our live stream here on YouTube, please leave us some questions. We will get to them at the end of the show. Dufour will cue those up. Mo, we have the Miami Heat advancing to the first round of the NBA playoffs. They beat the Bulls 102-91, carried by their star, the man, the myth, the legend, Max Strus.
I mean, he was amazing in the first half. 6 threes in the first half. Like, he really just went completely ballistic. And I mean, let's just be honest. They wouldn't be advancing if it wasn't for him. They were up. They had 6 threes from Max Strus. He had probably the best half of basketball he's ever played. And the Heat were only up 5 at the half, Jared.
I don't understand how bad the offense could have been at the beginning of this game. It was, I mean, not shocking, I guess. It was real, like, kind of like sludge for so long. It was really just Strus's hot hand, like, kind of like carrying the offense for this game.
Well, I mean, look, if you take Strus's first half numbers out, the Miami Heat, and I'm doing math on the fly, folks, so this should get interesting. 1 of 8 from 3. At that point. And I think that's such a massive thing. And that was kind of the case throughout the whole game. They really couldn't, they didn't shoot well. They didn't play well. Besides Strus, it took Jimmy Butler dropping 13 points in the fourth quarter to really sort of save the day for the Miami Heat in that sense. Because they were blowing it in the third quarter, Jared. Blowing it. Absolutely terrible transition defense. Then they started giving up offensive rebounds again, and you're just watching it going like, wow, the Bulls are going to take this game because the Heat are going to be sloppy all over again.
It really felt like the Bulls were going to be in control, and then late in this game, their offense just fell apart, and Butler just basically slowly carved his way through Chicago's defense.
Jimmy does what Jimmy does. And I think that's just kind of the smart way of sort of putting it. He playoff time gets going. He had an atrocious game against Atlanta. I didn't think he was going to be as bad in this game against the Bulls. I didn't think he was going to have back-to-back games in that scenario that poorly. But the shot selection from the Bulls in the fourth quarter was really kind of questionable. I felt like there were a lot of things they were doing where I didn't really like the shots they were getting, the looks they were getting. Maybe give Vooch a couple of touches. They didn't even get him involved that much offensively in the fourth quarter. I think that was a big issue for them. And I think that's just kind of where it fell apart. And, you know, they played hard. I was very impressed that they got past Toronto, but after that, they really struggled.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago last like 5 minutes of the game, it was just DeRozan or Levine trying to find an isolation and not creating separation. Levine went 0 for 6 from deep. He was 6 for 21 from the field. I mean, he just had just like the worst shooting game I've seen him have like all season pretty much. He just came up empty for them.
Yeah, I mean, he had a terrible first half against Toronto, and I think he followed it up with this game. And I think that was kind of the issue. But, you know, I think the bigger problem, the Bulls left their secret weapon behind. They left it in Chicago. She should have come down. And the best free throw defense might have saved the Chicago Bulls. It was the Miami Heat shot 87.5% from the free throw line.
Yeah, they finished 28 for 32 from the line. And a big part of that was Butler. Let's just get to crunch time. Butler was unbelievable in crunch time. One of my favorite plays I've seen so far in this play-in tournament is him just like triple pivoting through a double team in the post to get hammered in the air and then somehow throw it off of the glass. Like that was just the kind of majestic stuff that Butler can do. And then, of course, it was the one free throw that he missed in the game after that.
Yeah, but it was a beautiful step through. Like, it was one of those things, you looked like the defense had him bottled up. I think it was Zach LaVine that he literally just pivoted his whole way around and then finished with the bucket right there. Like, that was a really impressive play in that sense. Look, this is something that Miami does, right? If you keep it close, Jimmy will help you. He made the big pass to Strus for that big three on the wing. Like, he's going to make smart plays. Kicked it to Strus, or made the pass that led to the pass to Strus in the corner that he got fouled on. Like, a lot of smart plays in that stuff down the stretch. It's just, can the Heat keep these games close enough? And I don't know what they're going to do against the Bucks.
Well, I mean, what helps is Bam, he couldn't score like at all, but he was dominating the glass. And then that block he had on Zach LaVine to basically clinch the game was phenomenal. That's the kind of stuff they're going to need from him if they're going to get any wins in this Bucks series.
Well, they're going to need his ass to be aggressive on the offensive end. Excuse me. They're going to need him to be something stronger on the offensive end. They can't keep getting these nothing games from him on that end of the court. What he's going to do defensively, that's actually what we come to expect from Bam. And I think he's done a great job. That's why he's one of the finalists for Defensive Player of the Year, right? And I think that's something we're expecting to see even against Milwaukee. But on the offensive end, he has to contribute so much more than what he's doing right now for them to even have a chance to take a game. Forget the series, just take a game from the Milwaukee Bucks.
All right, quick postmortem on Chicago. Caruso had a great game. That was shot the ball well. White actually shot the ball decently, although he had a big miss at the end. But did you see anything that you could take into next season for the Bulls and think like they should continue to build off of what they have here?
I mean, they're in such a tricky situation, Jared. They're one of those teams where I'm looking at, like, do we just discuss kind of blowing this thing up and start looking for greener pastures, or is this something that you really kind of try to say, hey, we build on the second half of the season and maybe think about bringing Vooch back, Patrick Beverly back. I mean, you know, the loss of Lonzo Ball, who I don't think is going to be back at all next year, is a massive blow for them. And I feel like they have a lot of stuff they have to deal with in that stuff. This is going to be an offseason of a lot of questions, and they got to figure out, you know, what are the answers to those questions? You know, is it time to move on from LaVine and DeRozan and really kind of start a rebuild? And I'm sorry, Bulls fans, that's almost where we're at right now.
Yes, is the answer. All right, let's move on to the last play-in game. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they're heading back to the playoffs. They beat the Thunder 120-95. Sorry, Thunder fans. Shout out to Andrew Schlecht, who was originally going to be producing tonight, but I'm sure he's dealing with a bunch of sad down to dunk fans out in OKC. But this game was just destroyed, blown wide open right away. Karl Towns' length, size, power was just OKC had nothing close to being able to contain him.
Well, I mean, I think we all knew kind of this was going to be an uphill battle for OKC with just the pure fact of how small they were going to be with Rudy Gobert coming back, Karl Anthony Towns. And you said it, man, like I thought Towns was awesome in this game. 11 of 16 from the field, 28 points, 11 rebounds. I thought he really kind of controlled the tempo, hit those back-to-back and ones in the third, late in the third, early in the fourth. Those were big plays. And I think that kind of started to seal the deal. And then this game was absolutely over when Anthony Edwards drives to the lane, gets a layup. The Thunder turned the ball over on that possession towards the end of the third quarter. Edwards gets it, scores a three, and it's a 5-point swing without the ball ever crossing half court. Like, I think at that point it became a just ball game.
You could see the Thunder were deflated at that point because they had like a few little mini runs up until that point where they were getting it down towards like 12 points or so, and Minnesota kept answering back. And this was one of those games where just like Minnie had a different guy stepping up for a few minute stretches throughout the game. It's like Alexander Walker, he came through a few times they needed him to, especially defensively in the second half. Even Gobert was getting to the line. He went 9 for 14 from the line. He had 21 points for them. Kyle Anderson, he hit some nice threes. Conley did his thing when they needed him to. Like, they had good balance here that makes you almost wonder if they could actually be competitive against Denver.
Yeah, no, like let's ease the brakes here a little bit, Jared. I mean, this is probably one of No. If you are, we have to have a discussion here, and I'll call you after the show and I'll explain to you something. But this is probably one of the lower basketball IQ teams. They took advantage of the opportunity that they have of the size. They're not going to have that in the next round against the Nuggets, who are going to have to they're just going to have to deal with Jokic, who actually does a pretty good job against Rudy Gobert. It's going to be interesting to see how the matchups play out, but that's going to be a difficult series for Minnesota with how they attack and how they look to defend Jokic. I think this is going to be this is a fun one for them. Minnesota makes the playoffs again for the second time in a row. It's been so long. I can't even remember the last time it was. They've made the playoffs 2 times in a row. And this is something to hang your hat on there, especially with the acrimony we had to end the season. So, kudos for them.
Was it even this century? Probably. I assume it was like before KG left. Must have been, right? Like 05, 06 or something like that. It's been a long time. Yeah. Shout out to Dave Dufour for the pun of the night. Down to Dunk is officially down to drunk tonight because the Thunder, there was so much excitement and optimism. And Shea in this game, they really are relying on him to create a ton. He got to the line 12 times, hit them all, but 5 for 19 from the field, taking that shot to the eye. It's like nothing went right for him.
But it wasn't just Shea. Josh Giddey, who dropped 31 as a career high against New Orleans, drops only 6 and goes 2 of 13 from the field. Like, he didn't have a good night. Lou Dort kind of returned back to normal with his kind of shooting situations. I felt like this was one of those games they didn't get the best out of everybody that they needed. They needed to have the top level of everybody. They needed to have Giddey to have another kind of 2010 type performance in that scenario, and they just didn't get that stuff. And from there, it became ball game for them.
Yeah, well, it's ball game for their season. It's ball game for the show. For Mo Dakhil, Dave Dufour, our producer, I'm Jared Weiss. We will see you next week on the Daily Ding. Say ding ding.
Oh yeah, ding ding. Sorry,
there
totally
we go.
Spaced
now
there for a second.
All right, let's take a look at some comments. I'm seeing Great Babe here is just cursing us out for trying to legitimize the Minnesota Timberwolves even a little bit. Can we talk about that Miami crowd or the lack thereof? Yeah, it's the Miami crowd, of course.
Is it still pouring rain in Miami?
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, they had like a monsoon type storms running.
Did they really?
He wasn't. Yeah,
okay,
Great Babe wasn't cursing us out. Don't worry. Cursing the Wolves, which, by the way, is the proper response. The Wolves cause you to curse them out. So I get you. I feel you, Grape.
They're just excited for more drunk basketball. I mean, we knew coming into this game, like, OKC having Jalen Williams trying to handle the post against these guys, we knew it was going to be a disaster. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't get like somebody after the deadline, even just like some huge body just to have as an option.
I think this is what happens when you're one of those teams that's halfway tanking, halfway trying to compete and going like, listen, like, hey, if we make the playoffs, great, awesome. And then I think the other side of it too is like, but if we don't make the playoffs, great, awesome. And then they also have Chet Holmgren coming. So I don't know how much that incentivized they were to feel like they should go make a move or give up assets for him.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really funny if this pick that they now get back into the lottery with because they didn't make the playoffs ends up winning them the lottery. That'd be pretty hilarious because we really need Chet and Victor in the same place, obviously.
Yeah, like we need the Slenderman Towers to kind of go through. It's see what happens at OKC, but hey, listen, this was a good run for Oklahoma City. Like, one thing I think we talk about a lot on Nerder, this was a great experience for those guys. And I think just playing games that matter in March and April and even high stakes game right now, like, I think that's important, and that went a long way for them.
Yeah. And a Great Babe makes a good point. They got rid of Muscala for nothing at trade deadline time. Like, it was pretty clear they weren't trying to go for the playoffs this year.
Muscala wasn't going to help them. I know he played a role for them, but he's not going to make a difference in these games.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Cat would have torn through him like tissue paper if he was out there tonight. And yeah, Chen Plecki makes a good point. It's like OKC looked really young. Like, you could see just execution wasn't there. Yeah, this is what you expect.
They cannot get 2 games off the Celtics because they are playing Milwaukee.
But if they were,
I don't think they could take 2 games.
They would not. They're not taking any games off of anybody. This team is terrible. But hey, if Max Strus is averaging 30 a night in the series, maybe they have a chance. But honestly, man, like Jimmy was not that great tonight. Like he had some amazing moments in crunch time, but he was coming up short a lot of the time. He does not look even as good as he did like a month and a half ago. It's hard to imagine him being able to then flip it again.
I wouldn't be shocked if he's dealing with something this time of year. Kind of a little bit of that. He's getting old. They've depended on him so much to do with stuff. It's got a bit challenging there.
Yeah, challenging. Jimmy Butler make a layup challenge from Dave Dufour on the chat. Yeah, he looks a little like on all those kind of like crazy turnaround double pump shots. He just like looks a little flat on those. So I don't know if he's gassed or hurt or whatever it is, but I'm gassed. I'm done. I'm going to bed. Mo, thank you. This is fun. We love doing these live shows. So thank you to everybody who's joining us for these. Let's get more of you in here. Let's get more comments. And we'll see you on, I guess, Monday night or Sunday night. I'm not even sure yet.
Who knows? Ding, ding.
Who knows? Ding,
did I get it right this time? No, did I? Ding, ding.
It was ding and then ding. Yeah, you got it.